He stood at the foot of my hospital bed, arms crossed, voice flat. If it ever comes to it, I'll just pull the plug. My grandson, the same boy I once rocked to sleep during thunderstorms. The same hands that once clutched my apron now hovered near my oxygen tank, like he couldn't wait. The monitor beeped steadily beside me, but something colder passed through my chest. After covering his tuition, after adding his name to my trust, after believing blood meant loyalty, I reached for the cord, just not the one he expected. We're about to begin, but if you'd like, share where you're joining from. It reminds me this story doesn't echo into silence. It lands somewhere real. Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. The morning sunlight barely cracked through the sheer curtains of Patricia Weaver's kitchen when she wheeled her oxygen cart toward the back door. The air outside still clung to September's bite, crisp, impatient. She paused, catching her breath with practiced steadiness, her fingers curled around the portable tank case, waiting by the door. "Josh," she called, already knowing he wouldn't answer on the first try. "Can you come carry this to the car?" A low thud echoed from the garage suite, likely his gaming chair slamming back. A few seconds later, the door creaked open and Josh lumbered in. Hoodie half-zipped, socks dragging on the linoleum like a bored teenager instead of a grown man pushing 30. He didn't make eye contact. "I'm running behind," Patricia added calmly, adjusting the strap on her oxygen line. Josh bent with a lazy groan, grabbing the case like it was radioactive. "God," he muttered. "What's the point? She's halfway gone anyway." Patricia's hand froze on the door frame. She said nothing, just watched as he lumbered ahead of her, muttering again under his breath. He didn't realize how loudly his tones spilled in the silence between them. Or maybe he did. As they reached the porch, Kelsey appeared around the side of the house, barefoot and phone in hand, iced coffee in the other. Her lip gloss gleamed even in the morning haze. "You got it?" she asked Josh with a little pout. He grinned, almost proud of himself, and said louder this time, "I'll just pull the plug one day and collect early." Kelsey cackled, sharp, shrill, like a nail on frosted glass. "You're so bad, but like, facts." Patricia stepped past them both, calm and upright. Her breathing remained level, but her pulse climbed behind her ribs. She didn't miss a step, didn't even blink, just slid into the driver's seat with the kind of grace that came from years of pretending everything was fine in front of patients too close to dying. Josh plunked the case down into the back seat with a careless thud. "You good?" he said, like it mattered. "I'm always good," Patricia replied, buckling the belt over her shoulder and pulling the oxygen line into place. "Drive safe, you two. Don't forget trash night." Kelsey waved absently. Josh was already back inside before Patricia pulled out of the driveway. The whole interaction could have evaporated like steam. Nothing spoken directly. Nothing that would warrant a confrontation. But her hands trembled slightly as she reached to adjust the car's AC vent. Not from weakness and from calculation. At the first red light, she glanced at her phone in the center console. It was still open, still recording. The voice memo was at 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 36 seconds. She hadn't realized it was on when she'd been checking her medication schedule earlier. She hadn't realized it was still on during the exchange, but now she saw the waveform frozen on the screen. A time-stamped memory with teeth. She didn't play it, not yet. Just tapped save and named it something boring. Morning refill 9:13. At the next light, she opened her email and quietly attached the file to a new draft. No subject, no body, just 2 recipients, herself and Dr. Tessa Monroe. By the time she reached the hospital parking structure, her face was unreadable. She was every bit the retired professional. Punctual, composed, oxygen flowing. As she walked the long corridor toward respiratory check-in, she passed a family with balloons and a young man pushing an elderly woman in a chair. She smiled gently at the old woman. The woman smiled back. Inside her pocket, her phone buzzed, a new text from Josh. You overreact to everything. LOL. She didn't open it. She didn't respond. Instead, Patricia walked into the clinic, gave her name, and sat quietly in the corner of the waiting area, letting the oxygen hum beside her like a sleeping dog. Across town, in the garage suite he never paid for, Josh powered up his game console, yelling at Kelsey to bring him more vape pods. Back at home on Patricia's kitchen counter, the other phone, her older backup iPhone, still lay face down, screen dark. Its voice memo was also still recording. Patricia didn't go straight home after the hospital. She drove past her street, past the corner where the gas station always had the window signs taped on crooked, and into the UPS parking lot near Cloverdale. She parked facing the building, cut the engine, and sat with the hum of her oxygen in her ears and the glow of her phone screen on her lap. The voice memo was saved, already backed up to iCloud. But Patricia Weaver didn't believe in leaving anything to chance, especially not now. She opened the email draft she'd started earlier, double-checked the recipients, herself and Dr. Monroe. Then, just above the audio attachment, she began typing. Subject: voice recording, 9/13/25, 7:46 a.m. Incident occurred at 7:32 a.m. on property driveway. Involved parties: Josh Weaver, resident; Kelsey Reed, frequent overnight guest. Audio includes direct reference to intentional harm related to medical equipment. Unprovoked, unedited. Timestamp aligns with morning tank refill request. I did not confront either party. Decided to document instead. She reread it once, then again, slower. Her thumbs hovered before she added the last line. Mental state: alert, calm, in full possession of memory and logic. I am not frightened. I am prepared. She hit send. The confirmation whooshed off the screen with a silent kind of finality. Patricia exhaled, the oxygen line hissing faintly as if to punctuate her calm. Her eyes didn't water. Her hands didn't shake. Instead, she reached into her glove box, pulled out the battered brown leather binder she hadn't opened in 2 years, and flipped to the tab marked Estate. The pages inside were crisp, neatly labeled, cross-referenced, color-coded. Medical proxies, durable POAs, advanced directives, the will, the trust. Back then, she'd put it together with Ray Winston after a neighbor's son took out a loan in his mother's name. That neighbor now lived in a low-end facility an hour away. Bed sores, no visitors. Patricia had told herself she was just being practical. Now she was being tactical. The binder creaked slightly as she flipped to the contact sheet. She tapped Ray's number. It rang once. Then, Patricia, everything all right? Let's schedule a sit-down, she said, matter of fact. Tomorrow if you've got room. Ray didn't ask why, just said, I'll block a slot for 10. She clicked off, drove home, parked, entered through the side door without making a sound. Josh's music was up. A dull, repetitive bass line coming from the garage suite, something synthetic and juvenile. She ignored it, went into the kitchen and set the binder on the table. Then opened her laptop. The screen lit up with 2 notifications. One was the delivery confirmation from the email. The other was a trending TikTok link sent to her by mistake. Josh had forwarded it to a group that included her name. She clicked it, just curious enough. There was Kelsey, standing in her pajamas in Patricia's backyard, phone angled high, lips pursed in mock sympathy. POV, when boomers just won't die but still hog the property line, Josh laughed off screen. The video cut out as Kelsey mimed turning off an invisible oxygen tank like it was a faucet. Patricia didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She closed the browser, emptied her trash folder, and stood. Her house was quiet, familiar. She moved through it like muscle memory, through the hallway, past the laundry room, to the cabinet above the water heater. The combination lock clicked open after one smooth turn. Inside, her fireproof document safe sat like a sleeping animal. She placed the binder inside, shut the lid, spun the dial. Then she reached back into the shadows and pulled out a small velvet-covered jewelry box she hadn't touched in 15 years. It clicked open easily. Inside, a faded brass key and a laminated sticky note, pressed flat from time. If he asks, say it burned in the fire. R. She smiled for the first time that day. Not from joy, but from recognition. Patricia walked to her kitchen, made a cup of weak tea, and sat down at the table with her planner. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., she would begin erasing Josh, legally, financially, and permanently. And as the garage door thudded with Bas and Kelsey's laughter echoed through the walls, Patricia picked up her pen and underlined the word written beside Ray's name. Revision. The knock at the door was precise. Not loud, not timid. 3 short raps, just like always. Patricia opened it slowly. Dr. Tessa Monroe stood on the porch in navy blue scrubs. Windbreakers zipped halfway, and a rolling laptop bag at her feet. She didn't smile. She just nodded once, the way women do when too much has already been said. "Hey, Pat," Tessa said gently. "Mind if I come in?" Patricia stepped aside. "I brewed the weak stuff. Didn't think you'd want hospital grade." "Bless you," Tessa muttered, wheeling the bag inside. Her stethoscope bobbed at her collar like it had its own pulse. The two women had known each other long enough to skip pleasantries. Patricia led her to the dining room table, where the oxygen cart clicked behind her and a neatly arranged manila folder already waited under a paperweight shaped like an apple. "I assumed you'd want to see it," Patricia said, sliding the folder across. Inside, a printed transcript of the voice recording, timestamps included. Tessa sat, pulled out her laptop, and opened the folder without a word. She read. The only sound in the room was the ticking of the wall clock and the faint whir of Patricia's concentrator. Halfway through, Tessa paused. "Jesus." "No," Patricia said calmly. "Just Josh." Tessa exhaled, then pulled up Patricia's chart. "All right, let's update a few things." She typed with deliberate rhythm, her voice low and clinical as she spoke each entry aloud. Patient reports emotional distress following a verbal threat related to life-sustaining medical equipment. Threat documented via time-stamped audio, shared securely. Recommending alert flag on chart. No release of oxygen tanks or prescriptions to third parties without patient's written consent. She paused again. "I'll log this under both outpatient and emergency. That way if you ever show up unconscious, no one hands him a thing." Patricia nodded, eyes sharp. "Good," Tessa looked up. "And I'm filing a formal recommendation for a protective health directive. It gives us legal ground to deny access to your care plan if it escalates." "It already has," Patricia said, glancing at the cabinet above the microwave, where her emergency key hung on a hook behind old prescription labels. "They just haven't realized it yet." Tessa didn't press. She tapped out a few more fields, then flipped the screen to face Patricia. "I need your signature here, confirming you're requesting the directive of your own will, and you're mentally competent." Patricia reached for the stylus, but paused. "Add a note. Include this phrase exactly. I do not consent to any medical decisions being made by Joshua Weaver or Kelsey Reed, regardless of familial or emotional proximity." Tessa grinned softly. "You still write like a legal textbook." "I had to live with a lawyer for 43 years, Patricia replied. Some of it stuck. Tessa clicked the confirmation box. "That'll be in every system from here to Twin Falls by tomorrow morning." Patricia leaned back in her chair, her oxygen line tugged gently across her shoulder like a leash she'd long since stopped resenting. "They're careless, Tessa. Lazy, but that makes them sloppy. I'm not sloppy." "I know," Tessa said, watching her. "I also know this isn't the first time he said something ugly." "No," Patricia admitted. "But it's the first time he made it sound like a strategy." There was a long pause. Then Patricia stood, walked to her hallway closet, and returned with a blank, spiral-bound notebook. She opened to the first page and titled it in clean block letters, "Oxygen Tank plus Medication Log." "I'm logging everything now," she said. "When I fill it, when I charge it, who touches it." Tessa nodded approvingly. "Make them work for every inch of this battle." She signed her name at the bottom of the log's first page, a small, subtle endorsement of the war effort. Then she packed her laptop, stood, and met Patricia's eyes with something between admiration and warning. "You're not overreacting," she said quietly. "You're under-recording." Patricia smiled, tight-lipped but real. "Not anymore." As Tessa stepped outside and the door clicked shut behind her, Patricia returned to the kitchen. The house was quiet, for now. She flipped on the stove, put on a kettle, then opened her planner and drew a box around tomorrow's 10 a.m. appointment. This time, she wrote one extra word next to it. Transfer. Patricia woke just before dawn. No alarm, just breath and instinct. The house was still dark, quiet except for the soft, rhythmic hiss of her concentrator. She sat on the edge of the bed for a long minute, letting the weight of her thoughts settle over her shoulders like an old wool coat. Then she stood, slipped her feet into slippers, and walked straight to the dining room, the table already cleared, her printer blinking quietly in standby. She started with the checking account. Online banking showed 6 years of uninterrupted payments, monthly utilities, broadband internet, trash, and water. She clicked through line by line, each account linked to her name, her routing number, her credit history. Nothing with Josh's name, not even once. Her jaw clenched. Next, the cell phone plan. 4 active lines. She had 1. The other 3? Josh, Kelsey, some prepaid tablet Kelsey used to stream. She opened the billing archive, scrolled back 18 months. Every bill auto-paid from her primary account. Not a single repayment. Not a single name, but hers. Patricia didn't sigh. She didn't even frown. Instead, she clicked download all and began printing. One page after another slid into the tray, crisp, damning, time-stamped. She highlighted the details with a neon yellow Sharpie, steady as a surgeon. Josh's gaming headset from Best Buy, linked to her card. Kelsey's makeup subscription box, her card again, a $300 Venmo transfer marked emergency dental. She hadn't even remembered that one. Page after page, Patricia drew a line through the web. Not just a financial record, but a map of entitlement, a paper trail of slow erosion. By 8:15, a half-inch stack of evidence sat neatly bound beside her teacup. She slid it into her accordion folder and opened her planner. 9:55 a.m. Depart for UPS Notary. She left early, drove slow. Oxygen tank riding behind her like a co-pilot. She'd already called ahead, told them she needed identity verification and a notary for a revocation of power of attorney. The clerk had asked if it was an emergency. No, Patricia had replied. It's a long time coming. The UPS store smelled like cardboard and toner. The notary was a young woman with box braids and clear-framed glasses. She didn't ask questions, just copied Patricia's license, stamped the forms, and said quietly, "You're sharp as hell, Ms. Weaver." Patricia smiled. "I'd like a second copy, please." She left with both, one for Ray, one for the fireproof safe. By the time she arrived at Ray Winston's office, her plan had graduated from instinct to execution. Ray met her in the lobby himself. He always did when the request came from her. No assistant, no delay. They sat in a quiet back conference room with thick walls and thicker silence. Patricia slid the folder toward him. He opened it, brows lifting at the first few highlighted charges. "You've been busy," he said. "I've been patient," she corrected. Ray leaned back. "We'll hit the trust first, then the will. Trust moves faster, cleaner." We cut him out and locked the doors behind us. Patricia looked up from her tea. "Make sure you use the full name, Joshua Robert Weaver. No abbreviations, no clauses for reconciliation." Ray grinned. "You want to salt the earth. I want to make sure he doesn't sue the dirt." Ray chuckled. "This is going to get messy." Patricia reached into her tote, pulled out the laminated sticky note. "If he asks, say it burned in the fire," and placed it on the table between them like a poker chip. "I know," she said. "He joked about unplugging me. I'll unplug him." Ray nodded slowly. I'll get the first drafts to you this week. As Patricia stood to leave, she paused at the door. One more thing, she said, voice calm. Make sure the replacement beneficiary is bulletproof. No ambiguity, no opening. Ray didn't need to ask who. He just said, understood. Patricia stepped back out into the crisp Boise air, the wind brushing her gray curls off her collar. She stood still for a moment, hand on the railing, oxygen line fluttering against her coat like a fuse. Back at the house, Josh was on his 4th hour of streaming, shouting at strangers online, unaware that in a quiet UPS store and a law office across town, his future was being erased one signature at a time. Patricia unlocked her car, slid behind the wheel, and checked her messages. One from Kelsey. A video, she clicked. It opened with Kelsey's face, smirking into the camera. Boomers hate boundaries. Guess I'm about to teach one how to rest in peace. The screen went black. Patricia didn't blink. She didn't replay it. She just forwarded it to Ray with the subject line, Exhibit A. The new trust arrived by courier the next morning. Thick envelope, red security seal, Patricia's name printed in serif font across the front like a verdict. She didn't open it right away. Let it sit on the kitchen counter beside her oatmeal and blood pressure meds, while the light from the east window bled across the linoleum. She waited until the tea kettle whistled. Then she turned off the burner, poured carefully, and sat down with both hands flat on the table before breaking the seal. Inside, 41 pages of precision. Ray's letter was clipped to the top. Pat, attached is the updated trust, per instruction. See pages 3, 6, 12, 19, and 31. We've locked it. Let me know when you're ready to sign. R. She flipped to page 3. Joshua Robert Weaver, removed. Page 6. Kelsey Reed, explicitly disinherited, barred from contestation. Page 12. Linda Weaver, status, conditional beneficiary, pending written reconciliation by grantor prior to death. If no reconciliation, inheritance passes to secondary heir. Page 19. Secondary heir designated, Lila Ramsey. Second cousin, maternal line. Educational beneficiary. Page 31. Clause. Any attempt to access or challenge trust triggers automatic legal forfeiture of claims. Attorney Ray Winston to read full statement aloud if challenged. Patricia read every word twice. Then slowly she smiled. It wasn't cruel or triumphant. It was the kind of smile you give when the surgery is over and the pain has a name. That afternoon, Ray arrived in a gray overcoat, leather briefcase in one hand, notary in the other. A woman in her 50s with clipped hair, no small talk, and a perfect blue stamp kit. They didn't meet in the dining room. Patricia had cleared the living room for this, shifted the armchair to face the window, oxygen cart beside it, legal pad on her lap, a witness chair set up across from her. No clutter, no distractions. The notary checked IDs, confirmed signatures, and witness Patricia initial each page with slow, steady hands. No tremor, no hesitation. Ray said nothing until the final seal pressed into the corner of the last page. Then, he leaned in, elbows on knees. You're sure about naming Lila? He asked. No fallback to Linda? If Linda wants to be in my life, Patricia said, pen still in hand, she can try being in it before I'm dead. Ray nodded. And the backup account? Patricia opened a side drawer and pulled out a manila folder marked Idaho Central Credit Union. Opened it this morning. New account. Nothing linked, nothing accessible. It's under the trust name. Ray whistled under his breath. You move fast. I've had this plan half built for a decade, she said. Now I'm finishing it. The notary finished scanning the documents into a portable scanner, handed Patricia a thumb drive with encrypted backups, then packed her seal and stood. Ray lingered. I added something, he said quietly, in case Josh or Kelsey ever tries to contest. He pulled out a folded sheet, opened it. The following is a direct quote recorded by the grantor, time-stamped and witnessed. I'll just pull the plug one day and collect early. Any party who disputes the grantor's intent should first explain that sentence to the court. Patricia stared at the page. Read it aloud, she said. Ray did. Voice low, measured. The room fell completely still after the last word. Good, Patricia said. Print 2 more copies, 1 for the courthouse, 1 for my safe. Ray nodded. When they left, she locked the door behind them, walked back into the kitchen, and pulled out the old trust, original binder, hard copy, filed behind a faded tab labeled Family, Default. She carried it to the sink, tore page by page into strips, slow and even, dropped the shreds into a steel mixing bowl, then lit a single wooden match. The flames curled the paper black. By the time it was done, all that remained was a pile of cold, weightless ash. She dumped it into the compost bin and rinsed the bowl clean. Her phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Kelsey had posted a story. A photo of her legs on the porch railing, captioned, "Manifesting generational wealth." Patricia didn't laugh. She opened her digital vault, uploaded the scanned trust, encrypted the backup, and renamed the file Wealth Secured Pete Papu Babu's Value Final V1. Then she texted Ray a single line. Next step, rewrite the will. His reply came within a minute. I'll bring the shredder. The call came at 8:43 a.m., just as Patricia was double-checking the post office hours for certified mail. Linda's cell flashed across the screen. Patricia let it ring once more than necessary before she answered. Patricia, Linda said in a clipped, breathless tone. Josh just called me. He says you're punishing him over a joke? Patricia didn't answer at first. She reached for the remote and turned the television volume down. A commercial for estate planning services was playing. The irony was not lost on her. Did he tell you what the joke was? She said evenly. Linda sighed. He didn't mean it like that. He was just being recorded, Patricia said, cutting in. There was a pause, a long one. I'm texting it to you, Patricia said. Right now. She hung up. No goodbye, no explanation. Within seconds, she opened the voice memo, clipped the 14-second portion, and attached it to a text labeled only, "This is what you're defending." She stared at the screen until the read receipt appeared. Read 8:47 a.m. No reply, no callback. Linda vanished like steam over cold tile. Patricia muted the phone and slid it face down on the table. By noon, the damage control began. Just not from Linda. Kelsey posted a TikTok from the backyard hammock. Oversized sunglasses, and her tone dipped in mock pity. So apparently it's elder abuse now to make a joke about unplugging grandma. Guess it's our fault the elderly can't take a joke anymore. The video panned to Josh, half laughing, half vaping. He gave the camera a sarcastic thumbs up. Can't wait to get sued for being hilarious. Patricia didn't share it. She downloaded it. She uploaded it to a folder on her desktop titled Pattern of Behavior. That afternoon, she visited her local bank branch. Her teller, Melissa, greeted her warmly and tried to make small talk. But Patricia was all business. She requested a manager. Within 10 minutes, she was in a private office, calmly reading from a prepared statement. I am filing a financial separation notice regarding all personal and household accounts. My grandson, Joshua Weaver, resides on the premises but has no financial authority, co-signing power, or legal access to any funds. I request a restriction on verbal authorizations and third-party inquiries. All auto pays to digital services outside of my name should be reviewed and flagged, effective immediately. The manager didn't push back. He printed her a copy of the form. Patricia signed it with steady penmanship and requested confirmation by mail and email. When she left the branch, her step felt lighter, like something had been lifted from her chest, though the oxygen hissed just as steadily as always. By Friday, the neighborhood's monthly HOA newsletter arrived, folded and tucked into her mailbox like a bland envelope of gossip. She skimmed it while standing at the kitchen counter, glasses perched low on her nose. One paragraph caught her eye. Several residents have reported small thefts and disturbances during late-night hours. The board is reviewing footage. As a courtesy reminder, all guests should remain in designated areas, and household members are responsible for any misconduct occurring on or near their premises. The next line was worse. A formal complaint has been submitted regarding the tenants of 1130A, garage unit. The HOA encourages resolution before formal notices are issued. Patricia read it twice. The next morning, she emailed the sheriff's office. Nothing dramatic, no accusation. Just a quiet request to have a welfare check protocol filed on record. In the event that I am reported missing, unwell, or unresponsive by Joshua Weaver or Kelsey Reed, I ask that law enforcement confirm in person with me before any action is taken. I do not trust either party to speak on my behalf. She attached her doctor's capacity certification, the audio transcript, and a single-sentence note from Ray confirming active estate litigation. By noon, she received confirmation. Request approved. Protocol active for 12 months, renewable. That night, as the sprinkler hissed rhythmically across the lawn and Patricia watered her late summer tomatoes, she saw Josh and Kelsey climb into his rusted Honda and peel down the street like they had somewhere to be. Kelsey's hair was still damp from the outdoor shower. Patricia tilted the watering can and watched the soil darken at the roots. Inside, her phone buzzed again. An email from her HOA board president. Subject line: concern, trespassing complaint, garage unit. She didn't open it right away. She smiled faintly, eyes narrowing as dusk settled over her porch. The line had been crossed. Now the circle was closing. The hiss was wrong. Patricia knew it the moment she turned the valve on her portable oxygen tank and felt a faint and inconsistent push. Not the smooth, pressurized whisper she trusted, but a staggered flutter like a loose hose on a cheap garden spout. She leaned in, turned the dial back to 0, and checked the nozzle threading with her flashlight. The plastic connector had a clean crack running across the base. Deliberate? Accidental? She didn't guess. She didn't panic. She replaced the tank with her backup, locked the compromised one in the hallway linen closet, and wrote the time and condition in her medication log. Then she drove. The medical supply store off Emerald had opened 5 minutes earlier. Patricia was waiting in the parking lot when they unlocked the doors. She walked in slow but steady, tank cart in tow, and handed the broken cylinder to the clerk. "I need a replacement," she said. "Same model, new seal. Keep the old one. I'll need a receipt and your name." The young man blinked. "Was it dropped?" "It was compromised," she said. "Write that on the invoice, please." He didn't ask again. By 9:22 a.m., she had a fresh tank in the car, paperwork stapled and filed in her glove box. She drove 2 blocks over, parked under a tree, and pulled out her phone. 3 photos. One of the cracked seal, one of the invoice, one of the replacement tank's serial number. She texted them to Dr. Monroe. "Tank failure, possible tampering, full report requested." The typing dots appeared immediately. "Got it. I'll log this as formal interference with life-sustaining equipment. Report will be sealed and certified by tomorrow." Patricia replied with a thumbs up. Then she added the images to her desktop folder. Pattern of behavior, medical, equipment, failure, about 9/17. By lunchtime, Ray had followed up. Just filed notarized letter with hospital network. Josh and Kelsey legally excluded from all medical decision-making. Emergency directive uploaded to your chart. "You're locked." Patricia made a fresh pot of tea and sat with the window cracked open just enough to hear the quiet hum of her backyard wind chimes. A storm was coming, and she would not be caught flat-footed. That afternoon, Jolene stopped by. "Got your text," she said, arms folded over her gardening apron. "You okay?" Patricia handed her a slip of paper, a 5-step emergency checklist. "If I ever fall or stop responding," Patricia said, "this is what I want done. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you see Josh or Kelsey near my unit when I'm not home, call the sheriff, not me." Jolene scanned the paper. You really think it's going to come to that? Patricia didn't blink. I think I'd rather be overprepared than overburied. They walked the perimeter of the house together. Patricia showed her the new backup generator she'd paid to have installed 2 days earlier. Quiet, weatherproof, and hardwired to the oxygen concentrator and her bedroom lights. Power cuts won't mean anything now, Patricia said. Jolene nodded, then pointed at the doorbell. That new? Patricia tapped her phone and pulled up the feed. Crystal clear view of the porch, yard, and driveway. Installed yesterday. Motion alerts, cloud backups. No off switch on site. She turned to Jolene, voice calm but edged in iron. If anything happens to me, this house will tell the truth before anyone else can lie. Jolene stepped back, taking her in. The oxygen line, the determined posture, the clean silence behind her eyes. You're dangerous when you're quiet, Jolene said. Patricia smiled faintly. Good. That night, she sat in her den with a soft blanket over her legs and a ring light clipped to the side of her bookshelf. The camera on her laptop glowed red. Patricia looked directly into the lens, composed. Oxygen tank beside her, humming softly. She took a breath, then another. This is Patricia Elaine Weaver, she began. I am of sound mind and memory. What I'm about to say is my will, personal, emotional, and legal. It is not a request. It is not a plea. It is a record. The file saved as final message v1. Move. She watched it once, didn't flinch, didn't cry. Then saved it to her encrypted vault, backed it up to a separate flash drive, and slipped it into the velvet jewelry box beside the brass key. When she closed the lid, her reflection caught in the mirror behind her. Tired, clear-eyed, unshakable. The tank had been replaced, but so had she. And now she was bulletproof. The alert came at 2:14 a.m. Motion detected, front porch. Video saved, cloud archive. Clip length, 0:45. Patricia didn't stir when the notification pinged her phone. But by 6 a.m., she was seated at her kitchen table, a blanket over her legs, chamomile tea steaming beside her, reviewing the grainy night footage with forensic stillness. Kelsey, barefoot, hoodie up, pacing the porch with a phone to her ear. Josh, behind her, trying the doorknob. Twice, the door didn't budge. Neither of them knocked. Kelsey turned to the camera once and flipped it off. Josh said something the mic didn't catch, but his lips formed the word, paranoid. At timestamp 00:33, Kelsey stepped off the porch, yanked one of Patricia's wind chimes down, and tossed it into the bushes. Patricia clicked pause, then screen captured the moment. Then another, the one where Josh laughed. By 6:15, she had already created a new folder on her desktop. Evidence, trespass, data 919. She emailed Ray the clip, the screenshots, and a subject line with zero emotion. Unauthorized entry attempt plus property damage. Video attached. His reply came back 10 minutes later. Filing notice now. County registry opens at 8. We'll send you confirmation. Patricia stood, rolled her oxygen cart beside her, and made a note in her planner. Monday door camera maintenance, plus shrub cleanup. Then beneath that, Josh laughed. Kelsey escalated. Both documented. By 10:12 a.m., the official file had been logged. Ray forwarded her a PDF stamped and signed by the Otta County Civil Clerk. Trespass notification, initial violation. Attached was a notarized letter listing the legal description of her property line and referencing Idaho Code Paragraph 18 Part 7008. Unlawful entry or intrusion on residential premises. A warning had also been issued to Kelsey Reed via certified mail. The attached copy included one screenshot. The frame where she stared directly into the door cam, middle finger raised. Patricia printed a copy and added it to her legal binder, sliding it under the tab labeled Boundary Actions. She updated her checklist, bank, separated trust, Revised surveillance. Confirmed interference. Proven lawyer. Activated. One by one, the dominoes fell. By afternoon, the retaliation came. Online. Josh posted to Facebook first. So my grandma's officially gone off the deep end. Installed cameras, changed the locks. And now she thinks I'm breaking in. Someone come get this woman. The post got a few laughing reactions, a few sarcastic comments. One from Kelsey. This is what dementia looks like in the suburbs. Patricia didn't respond. She didn't watch the thread grow. She didn't call, text, or post. Instead, she opened her estate file and added one more document. Medical Capacity Certification, signed 9/13. It bore Dr. Monroe's letterhead. Patient is of sound mind and judgment. Exhibits clear comprehension of financial, medical, and legal decisions. No indications of cognitive impairment. Reevaluation unnecessary at this time. Patricia printed a second copy and slid it into a sealed envelope labeled, "To be opened if my judgment is publicly questioned." Then she texted Dr. Monroe directly. "They're going to start saying I've lost it. Already posting online. I've attached the letter to the estate." Tessa replied immediately, "Good. Add this too. I'll sign it today." Attached was a fresh PDF. Same header, new language. I, Dr. Tessa Monroe, have treated Patricia Weaver for over a decade. She is competent, organized, alert, and in control of her affairs. She is not paranoid. She is protected. Patricia smiled, not wide, just enough to feel her breath settle. She added the document to her cloud vault, saved it twice, then stood, pulled the security footage onto a flash drive, and placed it in her jewelry box. Next to the key, next to the video will, next to everything she needed to outlive them, even if she didn't. That evening, Patricia sat on the porch with a light blanket across her knees. Jolene walked over from next door, holding a lemon bar wrapped in foil. "They're saying you've lost your mind," she said quietly. Patricia didn't turn her head. She just whispered, "Good, let them think I'm crazy." She reached over to the small table beside her, picked up the door cam remote, and pressed play. The video looped silently, Josh jiggling the door, Kelsey pacing, the chime flying into the bushes. "Because crazy people," Patricia said, her voice like steel under velvet, "are the ones you underestimate." The video was done in one take. Patricia sat in front of the same ring light, this time with her legal pad in her lap, the camera angled slightly higher, more formal. She looked into the lens, eyes clear, no makeup. Oxygen cannula in place, no preamble, no softness. "This is Patricia Elaine Weaver. I am of sound mind and judgment. I am formally revoking all personal loans, gifts, or financial forgiveness previously extended to Joshua Robert Weaver, Linda Marie Weaver, and Kelsey Jane Reed. No debts owed to me shall be excused. No transfers of property shall be assumed. No shared ownership implied. I further declare that no conversation, voicemail, text message, or social media post constitutes consent, leniency, or future promise. This is my statement, dated and witnessed. My lawyer holds the original." She clicked stop. Save the file as revocation Tacorn 92011 final.move. She uploaded it to her legal vault, then texted Ray. "Statement complete. Proceed." The reply came back in 4 words. Deeds, will, registry, underway. By the end of that week, Patricia had signed 4 documents with Ray in the back office of his practice. One revoked a survivorship clause on her property. Josh had once been informally named as future caretaker in a previous draft. Gone. Another stripped shared liability from her home insurance policy, a formality she'd agreed to back when he moved in just for a few months. Gone. The third reassigned her car title and removed Linda as emergency contact. The fourth, stamped and witnessed by 2 paralegals, replaced her old will. No soft phrasing, no margin for contest. Josh, removed. Linda, conditional. Kelsey, blacklisted. Lila, Primary error. Ray slid the final folder across the desk. Backup copies filed with the state's encrypted legal registry. Only 4 people in Idaho can access it. You and I are 2. Patricia signed and dated the cover sheet. Then she exhaled, slow and even. Feels clean, she said. Ray nodded. It is. That night, she sat in her armchair, oxygen machine humming, and signed one last document. A prepaid legal services plan. Long-term directives, the woman on the phone explained. Wills, medical, civil enforcement, next of kin protections. It's all bundled. We've even got emergency filing services for seniors at risk. Patricia didn't tell her why she qualified. She just said, "Bill the trust account." The woman confirmed enrollment. Patricia hung up and slid the confirmation into her binder. She made another note in her planner. All ties cut, all firewalls up. It was done, at least from her side. The letter landed in Josh's hands 2 days later, certified, signature required. He signed for it without reading the return address. Inside, a single-page formal notification, typed and notarized. You are no longer a beneficiary of Patricia Weaver's estate, trust, property, or possessions. This decision is final and legally binding. Do not attempt contact regarding reversal or negotiation. Any further attempts to interfere with Ms. Weaver's legal, medical, or financial affairs will be documented and referred for enforcement. The reaction came fast, faster than Patricia expected. Within an hour, Josh posted on Reddit under a throwaway account. Boomer grandma cut me out over a joke. She's got dementia. Might post her medical files just to show what kind of mind we're dealing with. Within 2 hours, he followed through. He posted a cropped image of her medical chart. The header from Dr. Monroe's clinic, visible in full. A file marked cognitive capacity evaluation. A violation of HIPAA, a felony. Patricia didn't find out from Reddit. She found out from Dr. Monroe. The voicemail was clipped, fast, professional. Pat, call me when you get this. Josh leaked part of your chart. Legal team already notified. We're pulling logs now. Do not engage him. This is serious. Patricia sat in the stillness of her den, phone to her chest, blood like ice in her veins. She reached for her planner and wrote 3 words under Monday. He went nuclear. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Ray. We press charges. Tomorrow. She didn't reply. She opened the flash drive box, backed up her video statement again. Then she stood, walked to the front door and locked it, bolt and knob. Outside, the wind had shifted. Inside, Patricia's hands no longer trembled. She wasn't afraid. She was ready. The officer from the Ada County Elder Abuse Unit arrived at 9:17 a.m. Plainclothes, clipboard, no badge displayed. Her name was Detective Marla Hayes, and she looked more like a home care nurse than law enforcement. Until she sat down across from Patricia and opened the file folder already marked Weaver, Patricia, Priority. She began with a soft voice, but not a condescending one. We're just documenting for now. Nothing formal has been filed yet. But after what your doctor sent, we're treating this as a probable offense. You have the right to pause or decline at any point, Ms. Weaver. Patricia didn't blink. Start the recorder. Hayes clicked the button on her digital recorder and began. Interview with Patricia Elaine Weaver, age 82. Recording initiated at 9:21 a.m. Primary subject matter: suspected emotional and medical abuse, online defamation, and unlawful sharing of private health records by Joshua Robert Weaver, age 28, resident of same address, garage unit. Patricia recounted everything in clean, sack-clipped segments, from the pull-the-plug comment to the leaked medical chart. She handed over her printed logs, her photo evidence, the folder of downloaded TikToks and screenshots with dates and usernames carefully marked. Hayes looked impressed but didn't say so. Instead, she pulled out her department tablet and began printing from the cloud database. Josh's Reddit post. Kelsey's dementia in the suburbs comment. Multiple TikToks showing Patricia's backyard, her door, her silhouette behind the curtains. One video even showed Kelsey pretending to trip over Patricia's oxygen hose, laughing at the camera. Patricia watched silently as each sheet came out of the portable printer and was stamped evidence, itemized. "You're not just prepared," Hayes said after the 10th page. "You're methodical." "No one believed my neighbor last year until her grandson pushed her down the stairs," Patricia said calmly. "I don't need belief, I need documentation." Hayes nodded. "You've got both." By noon, the fallout started to ripple. Kelsey's TikTok account went dark. Her Instagram deleted. Her Facebook scrubbed. But it didn't matter. Screenshots lived forever, and Patricia had plenty. Ray's assistant had even captured the metadata before the deletions finalized. Ray filed the civil restraining order request before 3:00 p.m., citing both trespassing and medical defamation as grounds. Attached was Dr. Monroe's sealed statement. "I, Dr. Tessa Monroe, confirm that patient Patricia Weaver is mentally competent, medically stable, and has suffered both emotional and reputational harm due to the targeted, unlawful dissemination of her protected health information. These actions meet the threshold for both elder abuse and HIPAA violation. I submit this under penalty of perjury." Patricia signed the affidavit without hesitation. Ray submitted the bundle to the court clerk the next morning. She hadn't spoken to Linda in over a week. Not since the voicemail had gone unanswered. Not since the message with the recording had been read and ignored. Now Patricia printed one last envelope. Inside, a copy of Josh's Reddit post, the screenshot of her leaked medical chart, a duplicate of Dr. Monroe's capacity letter, and finally a CD with the original Pull the Plug audio recording. On top of the bundle, she paper-clipped a single handwritten note. "You wanted to believe it was a joke. Now it's evidence." She mailed it certified. Signature required. She didn't care if it was ever opened. It wasn't for Linda's benefit. It was for closure. That night, Patricia stood at her hallway closet and pulled down the fireproof safe. Inside, she placed a new file folder beside the others. Legal. Active restraining order. Pending medical violation report. Filed elder abuse statement. Recorded defendant. Family. She closed the safe and turned the dial slowly. The numbers clicked into place like tumblers falling shut on the past. Outside, the porch light flicked on with motion. The door cam blinked red. Patricia didn't bother to check the feed. She already knew who it was. She simply pressed the lock on the app and muttered under her breath, "Try me." The courtroom was colder than Patricia expected. Not metaphorically, literally. A blast of air conditioning whined softly overhead, rattling the ceiling vent above the clerk's bench. She'd dressed for it, though. Navy cardigan, pressed slacks, a silk scarf that once belonged to her sister, knotted neatly at her collarbone. Her oxygen tank rolled behind her like a quiet witness, polished and topped off. Ray stood beside her as the judge entered. Hanar Mara Calloway, known locally for her no-nonsense hearings and a particular distaste for performative kinship during probate disputes. Josh sat 2 rows behind Patricia, slouched in a blazer that still had the security tag imprint on the sleeve. Kelsey wasn't there. Neither was Linda. Cowards never liked fluorescent lights in public transcripts. "All rise," the bailiff said. And the day began. Ray handled the initial motion with surgical clarity. He laid out the elder abuse filing, the civil trespass violation, the HIPAA breach, and the leaked medical image. The judge's brow arched at that one. Then Ray stepped aside. Patricia took the stand. She didn't ask for a glass of water, didn't fumble with her notes. She adjusted the mic once and kept her eyes on the judge. "I'm not here to make a scene," she began. "And I'm not looking for sympathy." Her voice was steady, paced, the kind of voice she used back when she worked nights in ICU, telling families that yes, someone had coded, but no, they didn't need to come rushing in until shift change. "I have spent the last 60 years caring for people, patients, my late husband, my family, and now I am spending the last years of my life protecting myself from the people I once cared for the most. The courtroom was quiet. Even the clerk stopped typing. Patricia reached into her leather purse and pulled out a portable speaker. "May I?" she asked. Judge Calloway nodded. Patricia tapped play. "One day I'm just going to pull the plug and collect early." Kelsey's laugh followed. "You're so bad, but facts." The room stayed silent even after the audio stopped. No one moved, not even Josh. "That," Patricia said softly, "was my grandson in my driveway, speaking about my life like it was a scratch-off ticket." She paused, let it hang, and then he shared my private medical chart online. Because I had the nerve to revoke his inheritance. Ray stood. "We request immediate issuance of a civil restraining order, enforcement of elder protections under Idaho statute, full property separation, and financial damages relating to HIPAA violation and reputational harm." The judge leaned back. When she spoke, her voice carried the quiet authority of someone who'd heard every excuse in the book and knew this wasn't one. Request granted. Effective immediately, Joshua Robert Weaver is prohibited from any physical or digital contact with Miss Weaver. Fines for medical privacy violation will be assessed at $7,500, plus filing fees. Josh slumped back in his seat, and the judge added, "Any property access, utilities, or tenancy privileges not legally documented by lease or court order are hereby terminated." It was over in 20 minutes. 20 minutes to dismantle years of entitlement. Outside, Ray handed Patricia a copy of the stamped order. "You okay?" he asked. Patricia glanced at the paper, then nodded once. He expected to outlive me, but I outplanned him. She tucked the copy into her purse and opened her phone. She had one task left. She pulled up her notes app, typed out a short message, then transcribed it onto a note card with her neat, slanted handwriting. "Dear Lila, happy birthday. You are the future I trust. Love, Aunt Pat." She slipped a check into the envelope, sealed it, and dropped it in the courthouse's outgoing mail slot. By the time Josh made it back to the parking lot, red-faced and muttering into his cracked phone, Patricia was already halfway home. Windows cracked, scarf fluttering, her oxygen tank hissing beside her like a satisfied cat. She passed by the streetlight near her turnoff and saw a familiar figure standing near the bus bench. Linda. Waiting but not approaching. Patricia didn't slow down. She pressed the lock button on her car door and drove on. Calm, composed, and entirely alone by choice. The letter arrived 2 days after the hearing. Cream envelope, handwritten return address. Slanted cursive like it had been practiced and erased before the final version was sent. Patricia didn't open it at the table. She finished her tea first. Then moved to the living room, opened the safe, placed the envelope atop the sealed court order, and sat in her armchair with the blade of a letter opener resting across her knee like a surgeon's scalpel. She knew the tone before she even read the first line. "Mom, I know things have gotten out of hand. Not, I'm sorry, not, I failed you. Just soft, padded language. The kind of letter people write when they've rehearsed remorse, but haven't lived it." Patricia read the whole thing. Start to finish, Linda apologized for Josh's behavior, for Kelsey, for the video, but never for her silence. Never for the years of absence while Patricia paid the bills, cooked the dinners, carried the weight of 3 people's futures with hands that trembled more now than they ever did during surgery rotations. "He's young, he's impulsive, he's still your grandson." Patricia folded the letter once, clean and precise, and placed it in a folder marked Correspondence Archived. Not forgiven, not discarded, just labeled. She opened a blank note card and wrote 5 words. "My legacy doesn't reward threats." She sealed it in a matching envelope. No return address, no explanation. She placed it beside Linda's letter in the folder and closed it. That was her answer. It didn't need a stamp. Later that week, Ray sent her a memo. Subject: Final Boundaries Protocol. Per your request, all family disputes are to be managed in writing. No unscheduled calls, no drop-ins, no emotional ambushes at legal appointments. Any contact from Joshua, Kelsey, or Linda must go through me or be ignored. If contested, this document will stand as proof of procedural preference. Patricia printed it, initialed the bottom, and filed it next to her DNR. She had spent her life giving people second chances. She wouldn't spend her death giving them thirds. That night, she rewatched the video. The first one. The will. Her voice was steady, but something in her expression felt incomplete. So she recorded a new version. Softer, not weaker. Same opening. This is Patricia Elaine Weaver. I am of sound mind and memory. But this time, after listing her directives, she added one last paragraph. If you are watching this, it means I left more than instructions. I left clarity. I didn't choose silence, I chose structure. If you feel robbed, ask what you earned. If you feel honored, then you know why. She saved the file as final message v2.move, then uploaded it to her vault beside the original, naming the older one. Deprecated, for context only. Legacy wasn't just about who you loved. It was about who had loved you back in time to matter. The box arrived the next morning, polished cherrywood, deep-grained with brass hinges, and her name etched in a silver plaque on the lid. Patricia Elaine Weaver, Private Estate. Do not open without authorization inside. She began layering her story like sediment. Trust documents, final will, copies of her medical directives, a copy of her birth certificate, and her late husband's Navy photo, not for legal value, just sentiment. She slipped in the engraved USB drive with both final videos, her revocation statement, and the security cam footage folder labeled fail-safes. Then she sat in her den and waited. The knock came just after 4. Lila stood on the porch, hair in a messy braid, a canvas tote over her shoulder, and paint smudges on her wrists. I brought you something, she said. Patricia stepped aside. Inside, Lila unzipped the tote and pulled out a small wooden box. Hand-sanded, hand-painted. Inside, a bracelet braided from 3 strands of dyed leather. Blue, silver, and maroon. The colors from your front porch, Lila said. You always said that was your favorite view. Patricia took it gently, the way you might receive something you didn't realize your heart had been needing. She slid it on her wrist and nodded once. I want you to hold the estate box for me, she said. Lila blinked. Wait, you mean... Not open it, Patricia said. Just keep it, in case anyone ever tries to rewrite what I've done. Lila didn't ask questions. She just stood taller. Patricia smiled. She'd spent her life watching people flinch from responsibility. But now, at last, she'd given it to someone who could carry it. Patricia never said her name, not once. The podcast host introduced her simply as E, a pseudonym they'd agreed on in advance. The title of the episode, Power of Attorney, When the Abuser Lives in the Guest House. She recorded it in her den, laptop angled toward the wall to keep her own reflection out of frame. Her oxygen tank hissed gently in the background, like punctuation. The host's voice was warm but neutral, trained. How did you know it was time to act? Patricia didn't hesitate. When someone jokes about killing you and thinks you're too tired to care, that's when you stop giving them room to get creative. She laid it out in clean pieces. The audio recording, the forged bills, the medical leak, the trespassing footage. Her voice stayed calm, collected. When the host asked what advice she'd give others, Patricia responded simply, write it down, back it up, then tell the truth in full sentences. They ended the episode with a disclaimer about legal advice and mandatory reporting protocols, but Patricia had already done all that work. She hadn't called the podcast to report, she'd called to remember. The episode dropped on a Tuesday. By Thursday, it had gone viral in the elder law and social work communities, shared in estate planning groups, law school Reddit threads, even a TikTok video montage titled, "This is How You Fight Smart." Ray's office phone rang off the hook for 3 straight days. Victims, caregivers, nurses, retired accountants. A woman from Spokane called just to say, "I listened to her story on loop while filling out my own revocation letter. I thought I was the only one." A paralegal from Austin emailed Ray, subject line, "Podcast widow." The body read, "My brother stole my mom's pension while she was on hospice. I didn't even know what a living trust was until now. Please tell E she woke me up." Ray printed the emails and dropped them in a folder marked Echoes. Patricia didn't ask for updates, but she didn't need them, because on Sunday morning, her phone buzzed with a message from a local reporter. Subject line, "Request for interview." Grandmother fights back with will, not rage. She declined, politely, but the story still ran. Short 3-column spread in the Sunday edition. No names, just the facts, just enough. The HOA printed the clipping and taped it to the neighborhood bulletin board under a handwritten sticky note. Nomination: Patricia Weaver, Community Safety Advisory Board, pending October vote. Patricia walked past it on her way to the mailbox, lips twitching just slightly at the corners. Inside her mailbox, a single envelope, hand-addressed. The return name read only G. She opened it standing at the counter. Inside was a folded card and a single typed sentence. "Your story helped me walk away. I thought I had to wait for permission." There was no return address, no signature, just one line drawn at the bottom, neat, deliberate. A boundary. Patricia placed the card in her correspondence binder. Then she opened her planner and drew a small check mark beside the word she'd written last month, witness. That evening, as the sky flushed lavender and her porch light clicked on, she sat wrapped in her blanket, bracelet from Lila snug at her wrist, and watched the empty street like it was theater. Some people made noise when they reclaimed their lives. Others just made sense. The podcast ended up in a university syllabus that winter. But that wasn't what Patricia remembered most. What she remembered, what she held on to, was the sound of her own voice, recorded and unedited. And the moment she realized, she didn't just survive, she outlived them, in the way that mattered most, by keeping receipts, and by telling the truth where someone else might finally hear it. The form was titled Final Rental Reconciliation, Tenant Breach, No Lease, stamped by the Ada County Recorder's Office. It bore Patricia's signature at the bottom in firm, unmistakable pen. Amount owed, $0 outstanding claims, none legal status, vacated by court order, future access, prohibited. It wasn't about money anymore. It never really had been. This was about clean lines, formal language, and the paper trail Josh never expected her to finish. By the time the locksmith arrived on Friday, Patricia had already placed yellow sticky notes on every entry point. Lock, replace, photograph. The man, mid-30s, polite, slightly confused, followed her instructions without commentary. He took pictures after each lock was changed and emailed them to Ray within the hour. The garage unit was last. Patricia stood 6 feet back, arms folded. Oxygen tank beside her like a second witness. Josh had left it mostly bare. A stained mattress. A mini fridge buzzing faintly. A broken PlayStation controller on the floor like an orphaned excuse. The air smelled like vape residue and cheap cologne, faint but bitter. Patricia didn't enter. She just nodded once at the locksmith. "Change it. Reinforce it. Deadbolt this one." The man hesitated. "You expecting him to come back?" "No," she said. "I'm expecting him to pretend he was never told to leave." When the last lock clicked into place, she turned and walked away. That same day, Ray filed an amendment to her property title. No residency rights shall be inferred or implied to any non-leased occupant, present or future, without direct written consent of owner, Patricia Elaine Weaver. The language was cold, exact, bulletproof. By the following week, the recorder's office confirmed the update was active and permanent. Lila came over that afternoon with a small cooler of chicken salad and a notepad. "You ready?" she asked. Patricia nodded. "Let's finish it." They sat at the kitchen table, the same one where so much had begun. Stacks of folders in front of them. Final will, revocation letter, podcast transcription, trust archive, correspondence. Lila labeled each tab in her own neat slanted handwriting. She never asked for the whole story. She didn't need to. Every document spoke louder than memory. After 2 hours, they reached the last file, the one marked Estate Final Trust. Inside was a sealed envelope with Ray's stamp across the back, and a gold foil notary sticker still pressed in place. It had weight to it. Finality. Lila traced her fingers along the edge of the envelope. "Want me to file it away?" Patricia nodded. "Back of the safe. Top shelf. You'll know if it ever needs to be opened." Lila placed it inside the Cherrywood estate box and closed the lid with care. Then she turned back to Patricia and whispered, "You're the bravest person I know." Patricia didn't tear up. She didn't reach for dramatics or soften with age. She simply smiled, small, proud, quiet. "Bravery," she said, "isn't just about fighting." She reached for the folder marked Correspondence, archived, and slipped in a freshly printed copy of the eviction notice. It's knowing how to file the right form on the right day. Outside, the new deadbolt glinted in the fading light. Inside, the house felt cleaner, like it had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. Her phone buzzed once, Ray confirming. Property status updated. Josh flagged in system. No future claims valid. She turned the phone face down and reached for the last item on the table. A pack of thank you cards. She slid one out and began writing. "Dear Lila, you were never just an heir. You were the first one who listened. Love, Pat." She sealed it and placed it in the estate box. The doorbell rang. Patricia didn't flinch. Not anymore. She stood slowly, steady on her feet, and walked toward the door, not to open it, but to make sure it was still locked. Patricia walked the neighborhood trail just after sunrise, the wheels of her oxygen cart crunching softly over fallen leaves. It was cooler now, the kind of crisp air that made every breath feel earned. She moved slowly, but not like someone being cautious. She moved like someone who no longer had anything to prove. The cart behind her was new, sleek, lightweight. Lila had picked it out, insisting that function doesn't mean it can't look sharp. Patricia hadn't argued. She reached the midpoint of the loop trail, paused at the bench overlooking the drainage creek, and sat. Just for a minute, her hand rested on the tank's handle like it was a cane, not a crutch. In her purse was a flash drive. Red. Labeled in metallic ink, Estate Lock Final Dive 3. The same files lived in 4 places. The flash drive, her digital vault, the safe in her bedroom, and with Ray. The will, the trust, the video, the audio, the certifications. Everything, bulletproof. She sat quietly, watching a pair of joggers pass with headphones in, and no awareness that the woman on the bench had outmaneuvered a house full of betrayal and come out the other side with her name intact. When she got home, she placed the flash drive back in its velvet slot beside the jewelry box. Then she looked at the frame on her desk. Square, understated, brass corners. Inside, a typed quote. "Silence is not safety. It had been her mistake once. Never again." That afternoon, she attended her first meeting as part of the Community Safety Advisory Board. HOA had voted her in unanimously. One of the younger members, a firefighter's wife with twins, leaned over during the agenda briefing and whispered, "You're the lady from the podcast, right?" Patricia just nodded. They were discussing emergency plans for winter outages. She raised her hand and said, "I'd like to propose a checklist system for high-risk households. Oxygen, medication, mobility. Let's plan before pain shows up." They voted it through in under 5 minutes. Ray stopped by that evening, wearing his usual dark coat, a soft folder in one hand. He handed it to her with no preamble. Just one line. Trust certification. Finalized. Patricia opened it, ran her finger over the embossed stamp, and let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. No contest clause stands, Ray said. No conditional heir can reverse the disinheritance. It's locked tighter than a military pension. Good, she said. Let it be. Before he left, he looked around the kitchen, then back at her. You really did it, he said. All of it. Patricia smiled faintly. You helped, he laughed. You steered. After he left, she brewed herself a cup of Earl Grey and sat in the den with the window cracked and her bracelet from Lila snug on her wrist. At 6:30 sharp, there was a knock. Lila, again, this time carrying a small spiral-bound book, the cover painted in thick brushstrokes, a title scrawled across the top. The Grandma Who Cut the Cord. Patricia raised an eyebrow. You wrote it? Lila grinned. Creative writing elective, loosely based, no names, just the story. Patricia opened it slowly, flipped to the last page. The final line was underlined. My grandson said he'd pull the plug on my oxygen, so I pulled the plug on his inheritance. She didn't laugh, but she smiled. Full, deep. The kind of smile that grows from the spine outward. Patricia closed the notebook and looked out the window where dusk was settling over the quiet street. No more drama, no more chaos, just one doorbell chime away from peace, with a lock she'd chosen, a life she'd protected, and a legacy no one could edit.